Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast. I am your host, Nia Imani, and we have the GOAT, the voice, Cappuccino with
Oh,
us.
the goat though. Ooh,
Well,
that's
yeah,
a
because
heavy,
every time people hear your voice, they're like, oh, we know who she is. That's Cappuccino. We know.
that's a heavy crown to wear.
You wear it well. You wear it well. We already know the voice, but I'm going to let y'all know a little something about her. I'm going to read her bio because I don't think a lot of people know certain things in her bio, and then we'll get into it, okay?
Okay.
Born and raised in Miami, yes. With Trina, with Trick Daddy, all them. Cappuccino decided radio will be her joy when she toured Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. By her second semester at FAMU, the half Thai, half Black beauty was given the moniker Cappuccino because of the hue of her skin. Y'all see it? That's not cocoa butter, that's her skin. Okay. She also began training other students and served as a college record representative for Atlantic Records. Y'all heard what I said. Cappuccino received her BS degree in newspaper journalism and decided to stick with radio. She spent 7 years at KMJJ in Shreveport, Louisiana. Shreveport, thank you. As the midday host and became the assistant program director. So you graduated and just jumped right on. What?
It was a pause. It wasn't like a jump. It was okay. Now we gotta wait and see. It wasn't like immediately. I promise.
That's amazing. Kat was one of the chosen few to manage her college radio station and work in commercial radio at WHBX in Tallahassee, Florida. She came to Philly, where listen, Philly's our home. She came to Philly to become the midday host for WUSL Power 99 in 2012 and has a career that has expanded over 15 years in commercial radio. And she looked like she's 12. Kat is a learner, a speaker, a mom, wife, and will tell you what's on her mind. Yes. And enjoys music, movies in her downtime. Cappuccino! How you do all that and look like you 12, 13? What is
good moisturizer, boo. Good moisturizer. Less stress.
You look amazing. So my first question is, I asked the first question to all the guests. Who do you say you are?
Oh. That's a loaded question because as a personality, it's kind of like you have multiple personalities. I would say I am a down-to-earth woman, just easygoing. I'm an Aquarius. I think that's probably the best way for me to put it. I am an Aquarius. I am loyal by default. Let me see. I will have your back until you get me mad.
I know that's right.
But no, I'm just me. I try to be me the best way possible.
I love that. How did your experience as a college radio representative and working in commercial radio shape your passion for the industry?
It was all about hustle. As a college rep, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to send promotional items down there. I need you to disperse these out and hand these out. And I'm like, wait, what? Do you know what time of the night it is? All right, screw it. Let's do it. I got class at such a time. I got time. Let's go. So it kind of created that whole hustle. And then it being in music, like just music for me, I always say it's the culture and being in that culture, being, a student at pretty much predominantly Black schools from elementary, middle, high school to an HBCU. It's kind of like that just kind of embodied in me, whereas the music was just there. And then, why not be a college rep for something that I enjoy listening to?
Was there ever a point where you're like, I don't like it anymore? Or like, how did you know, like, this is my career? That's hard, especially as a college student.
It wasn't a point of me saying I don't like it. It was the point of me being impatient. Like, when am I going to get that good start? Like, when is everything going to pick up for me? Because I'm like, I've been doing this. I've graduated now. I got to wait, and I'm tired of waiting. I don't want to wait, but you know what? Here, let's go to the post office. Let's mail this stuff off. So it was all about, one thing I told someone, I'm like, throughout that moment of my life, I had to learn patience, because not everything is going to be handed to you.
Yeah.
And this career was one of the things where I had to really be patient and just kind of just try to network the best that I could and put myself out there, put myself out there as well. So it wasn't a time where I just got like to the point I didn't want to do it. It was to the point of, okay, just sit back and calm down so that you can do it.
That's a great lesson to not only like adults, but the younger generation, is that how do you sit back and just be patient? Is there any advice you would give? Like, what do you do?
Open up your lines. That's what I'm trying to think. Like, oh, open up your lines of communication. I mean, one thing, there was this lady, Terry Thomas, and she's actually about to become, I think, one of the on the Walk of Fame, Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, down in Houston.
Nice.
But it's funny because I'd sent my stuff off to her. I forget which market. I think she was in Cincinnati at the time, I believe. And I sent my stuff there because at the time, my program director and operations manager had worked with her, and he had actually come back to Tallahassee when I was working part-time there. So when she called me, it was just like, oh my God, I know who this lady is, and at the time, her company had a hiring freeze, but I appreciated her taking that time to call me, to give me a constructive criticism and let me know what I should do, what I could do. And I think that helped a lot, because at the time, who was taking photos to send off with their air check? I'm like, who does that? I didn't do that. But then when she told me to, she's like, I hear your sound. She's like, and I'm wondering, well, what does she look like? Because she sounds great. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. So the first time I actually met her face to face, it might have been a little over 5 years ago. And I walked to her because I knew who she was. And I was like, I said, you may not remember who I am. I said, but it was a phone call that you made to me that kind of changed everything for me, as far as saying, okay, take this criticism, roll with it, and just push. And when I did that, she was like, oh my God, I remember talking to you.
I love it.
So yeah, so just to meet her, that to me was a lot, because I never really had a full-on mentor. In radio. I just kind of listened to a lot of what I consider the GOATs, what I consider the greats, so that kind of just kind of pushed me and egged me on, and just kind of kept me motivated to not necessarily give up. Like, you know what? I'm working part-time. I can still create this and send this off and get better and have someone else listen locally. And I don't be mad at the criticism that you receive, just take it all in.
That's great advice. That's great advice. I love that. Can you discuss, and we already kind of talked about this, but I have a question behind it.
Uh-oh.
Can you discuss the significance behind your radio name? And we talked about the hue, Cappuccino, and how it reflects your identity and background. And I post that first and say, is there a time where you ever have to choose being Thai or Black? Do you say you're both? Do you say you're Black? I'm just Black. I'm just Thai,
It's funny, and don't judge me, but I was one of those persons. If it was going to benefit me, I'm other.
I know that's right.
I'm like, applying for the scholarships, we're other today.
I know that's right.
But I do identify more with my Black culture because I was raised by my dad, who was a Black man, around Black people in my family. My mom was the only one who was Thai, so I was never raised around her like that. So it's kind of like, it was just instilled in me that I'm Black, but I don't ignore being Thai, because I grew up saying I'm half mixed, or I'm mixed, I'm Thai and I'm Black, but I identify more with the Black culture because that's what I was raised around. That's who raised me. My aunt's Black, my cousin's Black, everybody Black, so it's never been like a fight or whatnot. But like I said, when it benefited something, we are going to be other today.
I love that. And what would you say to people? Because I've heard Tia Mari say that, like, she identifies as a Black woman. What would you say? But her father is Caucasian. What would you say to people who maybe struggle with, like, do I have to pick? Would you say you don't have to pick? You're whatever you are?
What's funny is I grew up not I ain't gonna say I didn't care about what other kids had to say about me, because kids, they always say kids are the most rudest but real beings around. Like, they just say whatever's on their mind. It didn't bother me because my thing was, my dad never hid who I was. So I think that was always my thing. I would probably tell people I'm mixed, and at the same time, they could look at my hair and be like, well, your hair don't look like hers.
Because you look like Anne Marie. Yeah. Come on.
When they would joke, I'm just like, whatever. They'll throw out the, Asian jokes, the karate jokes, and I'm like, whatever. I would laugh with them, but because it never bothered me. But at the same time, I know there are areas and situations where people, the identity, it bothers them a bit. But at the same time, I think is, if you're true to yourself and you know who you are, what others have to say about you won't bother you at all. And I think that's what it was for me, because in my family, as far as I know, I'm the only mixed child. Everyone was Black, but they knew me and they accepted me for who I am, who I was, what I've grown to be. It's never a question, it's never a question of, well, what is she? Like I say, I know who I am, and it's been a road of travel to get to where I am, and to be able to appreciate my identity. Even my child, when she grew up, when she was smaller, I told her, I'm like, look, mommy is this and that. Of course, she's not understanding, but when I showed her a picture, like an old picture of my mom, she thought it was me. I was like, no, that's your grandmother. And she's like, wait a minute, So I taught her at a very early age as well. So she's 14 now, but she will tell people I'm mixed as well.
Absolutely, because she is.
Yes. Even though she looks like a typical black girl.
You think so? I see a little bit in her eyes.
She got the eyes, but even the texture of her hair is different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, people will ask. They may ask her because of how full it is and how long it is, but other than that, and I tell her, I'm like, be happy with who you are in general. I never want to discourage her from saying what her background is. Like I said, I know what I am. I know who I am. And as far as the name, the name is it could have been a whole episode. When I was getting ready to have a show at college, one of the girls who I sat with, her name is Kim Allen, and I used to sit with her on her prime time show, like I think it was 3 days out the week. So she was like, "Oh, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I need you to fill in for me." I was like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "I want you to fill in for me." I was like, "Why?" She said, "Because you've been the only one who's been consistent." She's like, "I've only sat in here with you." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "I think you're ready." So now in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I got to get a name. I don't have a name. I'm just trying to learn the process and learning all the equipment, and I didn't even think about names. So as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I need a name. I'm sitting in one of the campus offices with like a couple of the students who worked on the station, and everyone's throwing out names, and I'm like, what? One person even was like Mulan. I was like,
I actually like that.
I was like, we are not doing Mulan. Thank you. It was just some of the wildest names. And my girlfriend Symphony, she threw out the wildest names. And someone asked who named one of the other young ladies who went by the name Mahogany. And then she was like, well, why'd you call her Mahogany at the time? She's like, her skin. And then all of a sudden she was like, Cappuccino. And I was like, why? She said, because your skin tone reminds me of it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, how do I work with that name? Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
And because when I was going through the training process, no one had ever really heard me speak in this class or the interest meeting we would have. So I never really talked to too much inside of that meeting except for with Kim. And even then, it was just me learning. I wasn't talking. So the first night when I finally got on air, some of the staffers would call on the hotline, who is this? Like, who are you? They're like, no, really, who is this? I'm like, who are you? They're like, no, which one are you in the class? And they was like, oh my God, because at the time it was kind of, I guess, it wasn't me trying to make the name work for me. It was just me being me. And apparently I had energy for the name Cappuccino, where it sounded like I was really on caffeine. So it was like I did a nighttime shift, and it was like I had that energy. So it kind of just stuck.
And you still do.
Right.
I remember the first time I met you, I said, oh, you're Cappuccino. Like, it's just simple.
You turn around like, I know that voice. Wait a minute. I know that. And I'm sitting there
Everybody stop.
I'm like, la la la, what voice? What do you hear?
Do you get that a lot?
It's funny because it's always times when I'm not talking a whole lot. Okay. I think there was one time when I was still in school and I went to the doctor's office because my throat was bothering me, and I'm talking in the lowest sound, and this nurse turns around, looks at me, you on the radio? And I'm like, oh my. I'm like, how you get that from me sounding like this? So it's rare where I would get it, but most I do. I still get it. Like even some people in the neighborhood have popped up whenever I was helping my daughter with Girl Scout cookies or whatever, and they'll hear me talk, and they looking like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. I feel like I know your voice. I don't know how, and I'm like, yep.
I just love that too, because your voice and the way you talk and what you say, it's so inviting. So it's like, it feels like we know you, like, keep talking, girl. I know you already. I love, this is why you're perfect for radio, your name, everything. This is exactly why. You're welcome. You mentioned being a mom, but how do you balance it all? Being a mom, a wife, a radio personality, professional. How do you juggle it?
Oh my God. It's kind of like, I don't want to bring work home and home at work, but sometimes being a radio personality, you kind of have to bring home to work to let others know that you too are a human, and you can identify with the parents who have kids, who may have the struggles with the kids. So that kind of relates with everything that I do. But at the same time, coming into the business when I first had my child, it was a struggle because it's like, okay, I'm working for the radio, but if I have this event to do, who do I have to watch my child, and how do I make that happen? And I'm like, I'm in a city where I didn't know people and didn't have family. So that was kind of a struggle to the point that, hey, she gonna have to come to work with me some days. You know, in fact, when I was in Louisiana, she was a radio baby. Like she was at work with me at a good 3 months, me sitting there rocking and headphones on and, you know, going to feed her, breastfeed her in the office on a commercial break. You know, and it was funny because I think I kind of trained her on how to speak because, you know, when she got to the point, she's still doing baby gibberish, but, you know, she got a little more mobile, like crawling around. I remember she was sitting in her stroller one day and I put my headphones on and I just hear her doing her baby gibberish. And I stopped because I was like, am I hearing things? I took them off and I looked at her and she's smiling and I put them back on and I'm like, oh my God. She knows that when the headphones go on, it is time to talk.
That is amazing.
So I tell people all the time, I'm like, she's a radio baby. She grew up with me in the radio. So, but it was hard to try to juggle that. As far as, you know, being a whole wife thing, that wasn't too hard to do because it was one of those things. Do what you do. You know, having a supportive person with you, they know what to expect. You know, it was just the idea of having that child because if he had to work out of town, it was like, okay, what do I do? How am I going to do this? But, you know, as Black women, we are resilient. We gonna make something work.
out of nothing.
Out of nothing. So we did. We made it work.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. So not only are you amazingly Cappuccino with this hue, you're a super woman, you're a super mom, you're a super radio personality. Who are you outside of this? I mean, because does it get tiring? It's like Cat radio. Like I'm more than that. Like that, you know, who are you outside of this?
I will say it will if I've had a long day, I don't want to talk. I'm just tired. I'm like, y'all just let me catch my thoughts. Let me get myself together. It's one of those things whereas if I'm at work and I feel like I'm exhausted, I can sense it and I can feel it. I'm like, okay, I need a break.
Yeah.
It's time for a small vacation. Just get away, get my mind together. When I come back, I'm refreshed all over again. So you do have to have those ones. And I think that's with any job. You have to take a step back like, whew, if I'm starting to feel like I'm stumbling over my words, wait a minute, something's not right. Let me take a step back. I can't, you know, concentrate on this because there's so much going on. Let me take a step back. And sometimes you need to do that. We call them mental health days, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of one of those things where you got to just take a pause, get yourself together. Outside of this, I think I'm just an everyday regular person. I put my pants on one leg at a time. If I decide to jump in my pants, that's a whole different trick. But I think I'm a regular person. I try to be a regular mom when I can. You know, I like to think that I'm that cool mom.
You are.
My child try and correct me every now and then. She don't think I am. I'm like, girl, please, your friends like me more than they like you.
But don't be hater.
You're right. But no, I think that's one thing about my personality and what people, and it's not me having an ego saying this about myself. It's what others have said about me. Whereas I know some people don't use Facebook no more, but I looked at like an old Facebook thing where I'm like, hey, if you knew me in college or high school, blah, 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 what did you think about me? And everyone, for the most part, they were consistent in what they were saying. They were like, you're loyal, you're kind, you're funny. You know, you make people laugh and you always love music. And I'm like reading people from high school who don't even know my college friends. And I'm like, okay. So to put all that together, that's why I say it's not an ego thing. It's from me basing it off of what others have said about me.
I love that. I love that. Are you, because I can see you even being a model. Like you said, everybody says you're funny. Like you are hilarious. Do you think you also want to model, do comedy? Like because you keep saying like, I'm just a regular person, but I don't think anybody's just a regular person. Like there's something in you that's like waiting to get out.
And I think I'm still trying to figure that out, girl. The model thing, I've seen better plus size models than myself. I don't know. I've seen better. I got to get rid of certain areas before I, you know, actually have that much confidence. I have confidence. I ain't got that much confidence. But no, I mean, it's funny. Even with the comedy thing, I kind of teeny bit consider it a little bit. And it's funny. I remember having a conversation. This was, I don't even know how many years ago, with Trey Songz, actually. And it's crazy because I happened to walk into my boss's office and he's in there with his reps and he's like, Cappuccino, funny. And I walked in, I'm like, what happened? What'd you say about me? You know, just talking in general, because he's always cool whenever I've interviewed him. Like, I've always interviewed him. And he was like, no, I was just saying, you goofy, you funny. He was like, if you ever decide to do a comedy show, call me and I'm there.
You better call me.
I said, let me see what I can do. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm as funny as the real comics are. So I think that's just my personality, just being goofy all the time.
Which is dope though, because I feel like any comedian who is like making up jokes in their head is like, you're not that funny. Like, just be yourself. Like,
yeah.
I feel like you're situational funny too. Like something would happen, you'd be like, girl, and people will bust out laughing. You're like, what? I'm dead serious. Like,
Right, no,
this is me.
and it's been moments like that too. Yes. Sometimes I could be a little unfiltered in the wrong times. Oops. Like, oops, my bad. Totally.
I love it. And one of my last questions is one or two. You mentioned Trey Songz. Who's one of your favorite artists, whomever, famous people that you have interviewed?
Oh my God. It's one of those things where you're always surprised at some of the people that you've interviewed before. I remember when I first got to Philly, one of the persons, I didn't know what to expect because I watched her on television, Mama Jones, Jim Jones's mom.
Yes.
From Love and Hip Hop.
Yes.
When she was on, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to expect from this lady, but she was so dope. And we were in there just having fun and just vibing, and she was really nice. But I mean, this career has spanned a long time, and it's been a lot of amazing artists that I enjoy sitting down with. Like I said, you'd be surprised with conversations that you have. I'm not gonna lie, I still get nervous with certain artists because I may have heard something of an interview that may have gone bad or not so good. So it's like, but I still get a little nervous with some. I've interviewed Lizzo. When I interviewed Lizzo a couple of years ago, I was surprised. I'm like, okay, this conversation was actually nice and free flowing. Where she was like, okay, she's like, I'm happy you asked me that. No one else has asked me that. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Chloe Bailey has always been nice. I remember interviewing her and her sister maybe 2 other times before me interviewing her. Jasmine Sullivan is always a treat.
Love her.
Yes, I mean it's just so many people that I really enjoy sitting down with, even especially when it's more than once, because it's kind of like you feel like hey, I got that bond with you. With her, I love interviewing her because I remember interviewing with her when she was just coming in her career before changing her name to her.
Yeah.
So when she remembered who I was like, as we're in the middle of the conversation, I mentioned something and she's like, I remember. And she had said something else. I'm like, oh my gosh, she does remember.
Right.
So I thought that was cool. So it's just one of them things that you enjoy doing. And when you have people that enjoy what you do and the way you present questions to them, it makes it that much more interesting and more fun.
I love that. You are phenomenal. Oh my God.
Thank you.
When people listen, see this podcast and just see how dope you are, who will we say you are? So you mentioned who you say you are. What would we say that you are?
I hope that you guys would say, that's my homegirl.
Yeah.
That's my girl. Like that's my friend. I like her. That's what I want you all to say.
I love, ever since I've heard you, met you, you are a dope black tie woman. You are, everybody, you can just tell, like, you are just so inviting. You're pure. You're the GOAT and the voice. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you. One thing I will tell y'all, Miss Nia will always hit me up for stuff. I'm like, yes, I got you. I'm there. I try and do as much as I can. I think that's one thing about me. I try to give. That may be, it could be a bad thing too, where you give yourself, so much you don't take a time for yourself. Right. But I'm always trying to be there for others, and just kind of like you say, I'm wearing the crown. I think it's heavy. I'm trying to take pieces of that crown and pass it on, because there are so many other great people out here, and I try to show up for them as best as I can oftentimes. And sometimes I have to take a seat back, like, okay, you can't do everything, just sit back, relax, get yourself together. Even in some of my most I don't want to say traumatic, and some of my lifing moments, I still try and do what I can. Not everyone will see everything, and that's the thing behind radio. People don't always see what we go through or what we look like unless we tell them. Right. And when you actually see someone's face, you never know. And I tell people all the time, check on your strong friends, because you don't know what someone is going through. And I think even having gone through some of life's hardships is one of those things where I sit back now and I appreciate life more. I appreciate those around me more. And so that's why I try to show up when I can. Now, if it's one of those moments I can't, it's like, okay, I'm being pulled in too many places, or I just need to sit back and gather myself. So, but I try to take pieces of that crown that you say I have and just pass it along.
And you do. You always show up. You're just amazing. Amazing.
Thank
Everybody, Cappuccino on the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast is going down. Thanks, Cap.